The knife pressed against Cal Whitaker's throat wasn't what made his heart stop. It was the Apache woman holding it, a river water still streaming down her bare shoulders, her dark eyes burning with desperate calculation. "You saw me in the water," she said, her voice steady as the blade. "Now marry me by river oath, or they'll destroy us both." In the distance, cavalry hoofbeats thundered closer, and Cal realized his quiet life as a rancher had just ended in the most unexpected way possible. Welcome to the Arizona Territory, 1876, where survival meant choosing allies in the most unlikely places. I'm about to tell you a story of corruption, courage, and an alliance that would shake a frontier town to its core. Follow me to the end and comment your city below. I want to see how far this tale has traveled. The saloon reeked of whiskey and wounded pride when Cal Whitaker pushed through the bat-wing doors, his boots scraping against sawdust that hadn't been changed in weeks. He'd come to Coyote Wells for supplies, nothing more salt pork ammunition, maybe some grain if the price was right. The last thing he needed was trouble, but trouble had a way of finding ex-Union scouts in Confederate territory even 11 years after Appomattox. "Well, well," slurred Jake Tatum from the bar, his Confederate gray coat patched but proud. "If it ain't the bluebelly who thinks he can ranch with decent folk." Cal kept walking toward the counter, counting the steps, measuring the distance. 3 other men at Tatum's table, all armed, all drunk enough to be stupid, but not drunk enough to miss at this range. The bartender, Old Pete, had already started moving bottles off the bar. He'd seen this dance before. "Just here for supplies, Jake," Cal said quietly, placing $2 silver on the scarred wood. "No quarrel with you." Tatum lurched to his feet, hand hovering over his Navy Colt. "Every day you're here is a quarrel, Whitaker. This valley don't need no Yankee." The crash came fast. Tatum's gun clearing leather Cal's hand, moving faster but not to his own weapon. Instead, he grabbed Tatum's wrist, twisted hard, and the Colt clattered across the floor. The room froze, everyone expecting blood, but Cal did something unexpected. He picked up the gun, opened the cylinder, and let the bullets fall one by one onto the floor, each brass cartridge ringing like a church bell in the silence. "Your war's over, Jake," Cal said, setting the empty gun on the bar. "Mine too. Let's keep it that way." He turned his back, the ultimate insult or sign of respect, depending on how you saw it, and walked out. Behind him, Tatum's friends helped him to a chair, and Old Pete started pouring free drinks, knowing he'd just witnessed something rare, a fight that ended without blood. The Arizona sun hit Cal like a furnace blast as he loaded his supplies onto his paint mare. His ranch sat 8 miles north, tucked against the Mogollon Rim, where a spring bubbled year-round, good water in dry country, the kind that made men do desperate things. He'd bought the land fair and square with his mustering out pay, but legal papers didn't mean much when half the town wished you were dead. He was 3 miles out when he decided to water his horse at Willow Creek, a decision that would change everything. The creek ran cold from mountain snowmelt, hidden by a grove of cottonwoods and desert willows that created a natural curtain. Cal had dismounted, was letting his mare drink when he heard it a splash, too deliberate to be wildlife, followed by soft humming in a language he didn't recognize. He should have remounted and left. Should have, but didn't. Instead, he pushed through the willows following a deer trail, and that's when he saw her. She stood waist-deep in a pool, where the creek widened her back to him, long black hair streaming over copper skin. An Apache woman washing alone, seemingly unaware of his presence. Cal started to back away, then froze. Her clothes lay on a rock, and beside them a rifle and a knife that looked well used. She turned faster than lightning, water exploding around her as she moved, and suddenly that knife was in her hand, and she was standing before him, magnificent and terrible in her fury. She didn't cover herself, didn't show fear, just stood there with the blade ready, water streaming off her body, her dark eyes calculating distances and odds. I didn't mean," Cal raised his hands, started backing away. "Stop." Her English was accented but clear. "You've already seen. Backing away changes nothing." That's when they both heard it, horses moving fast, military precision in the hoofbeats. A cavalry patrol close and getting closer. The woman's eyes went wide, real fear finally showing. "How many men?" "8, maybe 10, Cal said, recognizing the pattern. 2 minutes, maybe less. She looked at her clothes too far to reach and dress in time, then at him, and made a decision that stunned him. "You saw me in the water," she said, stepping closer, the knife still between them. "Now marry me by river oath, or they'll destroy us both." "What?" "They're hunting Apache women who fled the reservation. If they find me alone, I'm dead. If they find me with you unmarried, you're complicit. But a man has rights to protect his wife." Her eyes bored into his. "Choose now." The hoofbeats grew louder. Cal could hear voices, Lieutenant Rourke's harsh laugh carrying through the trees. He looked at the woman, proud, desperate, lethal, and made a choice that went against every careful plan he'd made for his quiet life. "What's a river oath?" "Words spoken where water meets earth. Binding by Apache law." She lowered the knife slightly. "Will you?" "Get dressed," Cal said, already moving to position himself between her and the approaching patrol. "Fast." She moved, like smoke, was dressed in seconds, worn calico dress, leather boots, her weapons hidden beneath a shawl. The knife disappeared somewhere Cal couldn't see. She grabbed his hand, pulled him to the water's edge, where the roots of an ancient willow created a natural alcove. "Repeat after me," she said quickly. "I take you as mine by water and root." "I take you as mine by water and root," Cal repeated, hearing horses splashing through the creek's lower crossing. "By stone and sky until the river runs backward. By stone and sky until the river runs backward." She grabbed both his hands, her grip fierce. "Now kiss me like you mean it, husband." He did just as Lieutenant Rourke and his patrol burst through the willows. "Well, well," Rourke said, his scarred face splitting into an unpleasant grin. "Cal Whitaker getting some afternoon delight." Cal turned slowly, keeping the woman slightly behind him. "Lieutenant, my wife and I were enjoying some privacy." "Wife?" Rourke dismounted his men, spreading out in practiced formation. "Funny, nobody mentioned you got married." "River ceremony," Cal said easily. 3 days ago. We're heading to the mission next week to make it official with Father Miguel." Rourke's eyes fixed on the woman. "What's your name, squaw?" "Her name is Kaya Whitaker," Cal said, before she could speak, putting steel in his voice. "And you'll address her with respect, Lieutenant, or we'll have a problem." The moment stretched taut, 8 cavalry carbines against Cal's sidearm. But Rourke knew Cal's reputation best. Scout the Union had in the territories, deadly, with gun or blade, and smart enough to survive 3 years behind Confederate lines. More importantly, killing a white landowner would require reports, investigations, questions Rourke might not want to answer. "We're looking for Apache runaways," Rourke said finally. 2 sisters fled from San Carlos 3 nights ago. "Haven't seen anyone but my wife," Cal said. "Now, if you'll excuse us." "She looks Apache to me," Corporal Davis said, edging his horse closer. Cal's hand drifted to his Colt. "Lots of Mexican women have Apache blood, Corporal. You suggesting my wife is a fugitive?" "Easy, Cal." Rourke raised a hand, but his smile remained. "Though I'd think a man like you would want a white woman, unless you've developed a taste for savages." The insult hung in the air like a challenge. Cal felt Kaya tense behind him, probably reaching for that hidden knife, and he made a choice. Instead of responding with anger, he laughed. "Lieutenant, you spend your days chasing shadows through the desert, while I wake up next to a beautiful woman who knows this land better than any 10 of your scouts. Who's the fool here?" Several of the troopers snickered before catching Rourke's glare. The lieutenant's face darkened, but before he could respond, a whistle echoed from downstream, the signal whistle of cavalry scouts. "Sir," a private rode up fast. "Tracks, sir, fresh ones heading into the canyon." Rourke looked between Cal and the promise of an actual chase and made his choice. Move out. He turned back to Cal. I'll be checking on you, Whitaker. Your story better hold. They thundered off, leaving Cal and Kaya alone by the creek. She stepped away from him immediately, all business now. That was Taza's whistle, she said. My sister. She led them away. Your sister's out there alone. Taza can handle herself. Kaya studied him with those intense dark eyes. Why did you help me? You didn't give me much choice with that knife. You had a choice when Rourke came. You could have turned me in. Cal was quiet for a moment, then said, I've seen what they do to Apache women they catch off reservation. I may be a lot of things, but I'm not that kind of man. She reached into a hidden pocket and pulled out a folded, water-stained page. This is why they're really hunting us, not because we ran, but because we have this. Cal unfolded it carefully. It was a ledger page, columns of numbers, dates, and names. Supply manifests, beef grain blankets meant for the San Carlos reservation, but the delivery signatures didn't match the receipt logs. Someone was stealing reservation supplies and selling them elsewhere. Where did you get this? My cousin worked in the agency office. She died last week, they said cholera, but she was healthy 3 days before. She gave this to Taza before she died. These names. Cal recognized them. Sheriff Boyd Tanner, several town merchants, and at the bottom witnessed by Agnes Crowell, the widow who owned the largest mine in the territory. You're holding evidence that could destroy half the power structure in Coyote Wells, which is why they'll kill us to get it back. Kaya took the paper, folded it carefully. The river oath. I meant it as a ruse, but Apache law says it's binding. I've trapped you in this. Maybe, Cal said, or maybe you've given me a reason to stop running from my own ghosts. My ranch has good defensive positions. You and your sister could... A rifle shot cracked through the air, the bullet sparking off a rock inches from Cal's head. They dove for cover as another shot followed this one closer. Bounty hunters, Kaya hissed. Rourke must have hired them as backup. Cal had his Colt out scanning the ridgeline when an arrow sprouted from a cottonwood trunk near the shooter's position. A woman's voice called out in Apache, and Kaya answered. Taza, she said. She's circling behind them. More shots, but Wild now panicked. Then a scream, short and sharp, followed by the sound of horses galloping away. A minute later, a figure emerged from the brush. Another Apache woman, this one in men's clothing, carrying a cavalry carbine with practiced ease. A scar ran from her left eye to her jaw, and her eyes were harder than her sister's. You're the white man who just married my sister, Taza asked in perfect English. Apparently. She looked him up and down. You'll do, I suppose. Can you fight when necessary? It's about to be very necessary. She turned to Kaya, switching to Apache for a rapid exchange, then back to English. There are more coming. Rourke's sending telegrams. They're offering $50 for each of us, $100 if we're taken alive. My ranch, Cal started, will be the first place they look. Taza interrupted. Not if we're smart about it, Cal said. I know every trail, every hidden spring between here and the rim. We get there, get fortified, then figure out what to do with that ledger page. The sisters exchanged glances. You'd risk your land for strangers, Kaya asked. You're not strangers. According to you, we're married. Cal managed a dry smile. Besides, I've been looking for an excuse to stick it to Rourke and his cronies. This seems like a good one. They moved fast, but careful Cal leading them up a game trail that wouldn't take horse traffic, forcing any pursuit to dismount. The sun was setting, painting the rocks red as blood, when they finally saw his ranch, a modest cabin with a good barn shimmered against a cliff face, with clear fields of fire in 3 directions. Defensible, Taza approved. Built it that way on purpose, Cal said. Old habits from the war. They were 100 yards from the cabin when Cal held up a hand. Wait, what is it? Kaya whispered. Doors open. I never leave it open. He studied the shadows. Could be they beat us here, could be, or could be you're getting paranoid in your old age, Whitaker. Sheriff Boyd Tanner stepped out onto the porch, his hand resting on his pistol. Two deputies flanked him, rifles ready but not aimed. "Evening, Cal. Ladies." His smile was all teeth, no warmth. "Heard you got married. Thought I'd come offer my congratulations." "Much obliged, Sheriff," Cal said carefully, "though visiting rights usually wait until daylight." "Well, you know how it is. Dangerous times. Apache raiders about. Wouldn't want anything to happen to you or your wife." He said the last word like it tasted bad. "We can take care of ourselves." "I'm sure. Still mind if we look around. Make sure no fugitives are hiding in your barn." This was the moment. Cal could refuse make a stand here, but the odds weren't good. Or he could play it smart, use words instead of bullets. "You have a warrant, Sheriff?" "Don't need one if I have probable cause." "What cause would that be?" "Anonymous tip that you're harboring fugitives." Cal laughed. "Anonymous, let me guess, Rourke. He's just mad because I made him look foolish at the creek. That's a serious accusation. So is searching a man's property without cause." Cal stepped forward and both deputies tensed. "Here's what I know, Sheriff. I know you're on Agnes Crowell's payroll. I know she wants my land for the water rights. And I know that if you push this, I'll ride to Tucson and have a long talk with the territorial marshal about certain irregularities in supply shipments to San Carlos." Tanner's face went very still. "You threatening me, Whitaker?" "Stating facts. Here's another fact. My wife and her sister are under my protection. That's the law, Sheriff, the same law you claim to serve. Now you can push this and see where it goes, or you can wish us a good evening and be on your way." The moment stretched like a hangman's rope. Then Tanner smiled, cold and thin. "You're right, of course. My apologies for the intrusion." He tipped his hat to the women. "Ladies, welcome to Coyote Wells. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of each other." They mounted up and rode off, but Cal knew this wasn't over. It was just beginning. Inside the cabin, Kaya looked around at the sparse but clean interior, a bed, a table, 2 chairs, a wall of books that surprised her. "You read?" she asked. "Helps pass the time. You—" "Mission school, before they decided I was too much trouble." She picked up a volume of Shakespeare, handled it carefully. "These are valuable. To me, anyway." Cal started barricading the door. "Taza, there's a Springfield rifle in the barn, ammunition too. We'll take shifts, watching." "You trust easily for a white man," Taza said. "I trust people who are willing to die for something that matters. That ledger page, we need to get it to someone who can use it." "Who?" Kaya asked. "The sheriffs corrupt the armies in on it, and Agnes Crowell owns half the territory." "Ramon Ortega," Cal said, "runs the newspaper. He's been trying to expose the theft for months, but couldn't get proof." "A Mexican," Taza sounded skeptical. "A good man who hates corruption more than he loves his own safety. If we can get that evidence to him, we'd need more than 1 page," Kaya interrupted. "This proves theft, but not who's involved beyond the signatures." "Then we get more," Cal said simply. "From where the agency office is locked tighter than—" She stopped, seeing Cal's expression. "You know where the full ledgers are." "Agnes Crowell keeps records of everything. She'd have copies in her house, probably in that safe she thinks nobody knows about." "You're talking about robbing the most powerful woman in the territory," Taza said. "I'm talking about justice," Cal replied. "But first, we need to make this marriage legal enough that they can't easily separate us. Tomorrow, we ride to the mission." Kaya studied him in the lamplight. "Why are you doing this? Really?" Cal was quiet for a long moment. "I spent 3 years in the war doing things that still wake me up at night. Came out here to forget to be alone, to never have to make those kinds of choices again. But maybe running from the fight isn't the answer. Maybe the answer is choosing the right fight." "And we're the right fight?" Kaya asked softly. "A people being starved while men get rich off their suffering." "Yeah, that's a fight worth having." Taza went out to take first watch. leaving Cal and Kaya alone. The single bed seemed to dominate the room suddenly. "I'll sleep on the floor," Cal said. "The floor's cold." "I've slept in worse places." Kaya looked at him for a long moment. "The river oath, it doesn't require consummation, but it does require honesty. So be honest, why did you really help me?" Cal met her eyes. "When Rourke and his men came, when he called you, what he called you, I saw my mother. Your mother was Apache, Cherokee. Different tribe, same treatment. She died when I was 12, killed by men who thought she was less than human because of her blood. I couldn't stop them then. I was too young, too weak, but I'm not weak anymore." Kaya moved closer. "And you think protecting me somehow makes up for that?" "No, nothing makes up for that. But maybe it means her death wasn't completely meaningless if it taught me to stand up when it matters." Before Kaya could respond, Taza's warning whistle cut through the night. They grabbed weapons, doused the lamp, and took positions by the windows. "What do you see?" Cal called softly. "Nothing yet, but the horses are nervous. Something's out there." They waited tense minutes dragging by, then saw it, a flicker of flame in the darkness, moving toward the barn. "They're going to burn us out," Kaya breathed. "Like hell they are," Cal said, already moving. "Cover me." He slipped out the back, moving silent as his Cherokee mother had taught him, circling wide. The arsonist was focused on the barn, striking another match, when Cal's gun butt caught him behind the ear. The man dropped the match, falling harmless into dirt, but there were more shadows moving in from 3 directions. Cal fired the muzzle flash, giving away his position, then rolled as return fire erupted. He heard Taza's rifle crack, saw a shadow fall. Then Kaya was beside him, that hidden knife finally visible as she threw it with deadly accuracy. The fight was brief but vicious. When it ended, 3 men were down, 2 dead, and 1 groaning with Kaya's knife in his shoulder. Cal recognized him, one of Tanner's unofficial deputies, the kind who did dirty work for coin. "Who sent you?" Cal demanded, pressing his boot against the wounded shoulder. The man screamed. "Nobody, just heard about the bounty." "Try again." Cal pressed harder. All right, Crowell. "The widow wants you gone, once the Apache women disappeared." "Why, don't know, swear I don't. Just said to make it look like raiders did it." Cal knocked him unconscious, then turned to the sisters. "We can't stay here." "Where do we go?" Kaya asked. "The last place they'd expect," Cal said. "We're going to the mission, just like I said. But first, we're going to make a stop." They loaded what they could carry, Cal saddling 3 horses from his small string. As they prepared to leave, Kaya touched his arm. "Your books. They're just things," Cal said, though his voice carried regret. "Come on, we need to reach Ramon before dawn." They rode hard through darkness, following trails Cal knew by feel more than sight. The printing office sat at the edge of town, a small adobe building that leaked light around shuttered windows. Cal knocked 3 short, 2 long, an old signal from the war. The door opened a crack, and Ramon Ortega's weathered face peered out. "Cal, what are you?" His eyes found the women. "Dios mío," inside quickly. The printing office smelled of ink and paper, the press taking up most of the space. Ramon listened as they explained, his eyes growing wider as he examined the ledger page. "This is it," he breathed. "This is what I've needed. But 1 page, we'll get more," Cal promised. "But first, we need your help. Print this story. Local rancher marries Apache woman in traditional ceremony. Make it romantic, talk about love crossing cultural boundaries, quote some Shakespeare if you have to. Make it so public that they can't disappear her without everyone knowing." Ramon smiled slowly. "Brilliant. Make her a public figure, someone the good church ladies will want to meet." "Yes, I can do this. But Cal, you know what this means. You'll be a target for every Confederate sympathizer in the territory." "Already am," Cal said. "Might as well make it worthwhile." As Ramon worked setting type with practiced fingers, Taza kept watch while Kaya explored the office. She found a stack of back issues, started reading. "You've been writing about the reservation theft for months," she said to Ramon. "Writing suspicions. You've brought me proof." He inked the press. "This edition will change everything." Dawn was breaking as they approached the mission, the bells already ringing for morning mass. Father Miguel, an elderly Spanish priest who'd served the territory for 30 years, greeted them with surprise but no judgment. "Cal Whitaker, I heard you had taken a wife. News travels fast, Father. Faster when Sheriff Tanner sends men to ask questions." The priest's eyes were knowing. "Come, let us make your union official in the eyes of God and government." The ceremony was simple, but legal, witnessed by Dr. Miriam Black, the mission doctor who'd arrived from Boston 2 years prior, and several Apache converts who knew Kaya by reputation. As they signed the registry, Dr. Black pulled Cal aside. "I know what you're doing," she said quietly, "and I know why. There are others who want to see justice done. When you need help, ask." The morning sun was heating the valley as they left the mission, legally married now, protected by law, if not by those who enforced it. But as they turned toward town, they saw smoke rising from the direction of Cal's ranch. "They burned it," Taza said flatly. "Let them," Cal replied. "Buildings can be rebuilt, but they've just made a mistake. They've shown everyone that they're scared. Scared people make stupid decisions." They rode into town openly now, Cal and his legally recognized wife with her sister as family. The newspaper was already circulating Ramon's story, painting a romance that would be hard to villainize. People stared, whispered, but some nodded respectfully. At the general store, Mrs. Henderson, the proprietor's wife, actually smiled at Kaya. "Congratulations on your marriage, dear. Will you be attending Sunday services?" "We'd be honored," Kaya replied, her English perfect and cultured, surprising the woman. They were leaving the store when Agnes Crowell's carriage pulled up, the widow herself stepping out in expensive black silk. She was handsome in that hard way wealthy women could be, her smile never reaching her calculating eyes. "Mr. Whitaker," she said warmly. "And you must be the new Mrs. Whitaker. How wonderful. I do so love a good romance." "Mrs. Crowell." Cal nodded carefully. "I heard about the unfortunate fire at your ranch. Such a tragedy. I do hope you'll allow me to help. I could offer you a very fair price for the land, enough to start fresh somewhere else." "California, perhaps. I hear San Francisco is lovely." "That's kind," Cal said. "But we're staying, already planning to rebuild." Agnes's smile tightened. "How brave. Though I worry about your safety. These are dangerous times. Why, just last night several men were killed near your property. The sheriff suspects Apache raiders." "Is that what he suspects?" Cal asked dryly. "Well, who else could it be?" Agnes touched Kaya's arm, and Cal saw his wife tense. "You must be so frightened, dear. Your people causing such violence. It must be difficult." Kaya smiled sweetly. "No more difficult than watching your people steal food meant for starving children, Mrs. Crowell." The widow's face went still. "What an odd thing to say." "Is it? I suppose it would depend on what one knows about certain ledgers." Agnes studied them both, then smiled again, bright and false. "You must come for dinner tomorrow, all three of you. I insist. 7 o'clock. We have so much to discuss." She swept away, leaving them standing in the street. Taza spat in the dust. "It's a trap." "Of course it is," Cal agreed, "which is why we're going." That night they stayed at the mission, Father Miguel, insisting it was his Christian duty to shelter newlyweds. Dr. Black treated the minor wounds from the fight, and as she worked, she talked. "Agnes Crowell isn't what she seems," the doctor said quietly. "She plays the grieving widow, the philanthropist. But there are rumors. Her husband's death was very convenient. He was about to expose something before his mine shaft collapsed." "What kind of something?" Kaya asked. "Financial irregularities, missing shipments. He had evidence, but it disappeared with him in the cave-in." Dr. Black finished bandaging Cal's arm. "Be very careful tomorrow night." They spent the next day preparing Cal and Taza, scouting the Crowell mansion while Kaya worked with Ramon to decipher more of the ledger page's codes. By evening, they'd identified a pattern: the thefts aligned with cavalry patrol schedules suggesting military coordination. The Crowell mansion squatted on a hill overlooking Coyote Wells like a bloated spider surveying its web. Agnes received them in a dining room that could have fed half the reservation crystal chandeliers, casting rainbow patterns on walls lined with portraits of stern-looking men. "So glad you could come," Agnes purred, gesturing to seats. "I've invited a few others. I hope you don't mind." The others turned out to be Sheriff Tanner, Lieutenant Rourke, and a thin man in an Eastern suit who was introduced as Mr. Harding from the Bureau of Indian Affairs. "Quite a gathering," Cal said, taking his seat. "Well, we have business to discuss," Agnes said. "Wine. We don't drink," Kaya said. "How virtuous." Agnes poured herself a generous glass. "Let's dispense with pleasantries. You have something that belongs to me." "Do we?" Cal asked. "A certain page, from a certain ledger, stolen from the agency office." "We have a page," Kaya said calmly, "but it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the people its documents were robbed." Rourke leaned forward. "Careful, squaw. You're talking theft of government property. Am I?" Kaya pulled out the page, keeping it just out of reach. "Or am I talking about evidence of theft from government property?" "That's a forgery," Tanner said quickly. "Then you won't mind if we have it authenticated by federal investigators," Cal said. The room went quiet. Agnes sipped her wine, studying them. "What do you want?" "Justice," Kaya said simply. Agnes laughed, actually laughed. "Justice, my dear child. Justice is a luxury the frontier can't afford. We're building civilization here. That requires sacrifice." "Whose sacrifice?" Taza spoke for the first time. "Your people are getting rich while mine starve. The strong survive. That's nature's law." "Then we'll be very natural," Cal said, standing. "We're leaving, and that page is going to the territorial governor." "No," Agnes said quietly. "You're not." The dining room doors opened. 8 armed men entered, surrounding them. Not soldiers, not deputies, hired guns with dead eyes and ready weapons. "Here's what's going to happen," Agnes continued. "You're going to give me that page. Then you're going to have an unfortunate accident on the way back to the mission. Apache raiders, such a tragedy. The sheriff will investigate, of course, but find nothing." "You'd murder us in your own home?" Cal asked. "Murder? I'm having dinner. You left an hour ago. These gentlemen will swear to it." Kaya stood slowly. "You're right about one thing, Mrs. Crowell. The strong do survive." She pulled something from her dress, not the ledger page, but a small glass vial. "Do you know what this is?" "It's extracted from a plant that grows near the reservation. 1 drop can heal, 10 drops can kill. I've already put 20 in your wine." Agnes went pale, the glass falling from her hand to shatter on the floor. "You're lying." "Am I? You've had 2 glasses. How do you feel?" Warm heart racing. "That's the first stage." It was a bluff. Cal could see it in Kaya's eyes, but Agnes couldn't. The widow clutched her throat, gasping. "The antidote," she wheezed. "The page for your life," Kaya said calmly. "Don't listen to her," Rourke snapped. "She's bluffing." "Are you willing to bet her life on that?" Cal asked. "Because I notice you're not drinking the wine, Lieutenant." Agnes was panicking now, her breath coming in gasps, psychosomatic, but she didn't know that. "Give her the antidote." "First, call off your men," Kaya demanded. "Get out," Agnes screamed at the gunmen. "All of you get out." Confused, they filed out. Tanner and Rourke started to protest, but Agnes grabbed Tanner's gun, waving it wildly. "The antidote." Kaya pulled out another vial. Water, Cal guessed, and set it on the table. "We're leaving. Follow us and she dies." They backed out carefully, Kaya pocketing the fake antidote at the last second. They could hear Agnes screaming as they reached their horses, Rourke shouting orders, chaos erupting in the mansion. "Ride!" Cal shouted, and they thundered into the darkness. They made it halfway to the mission before the pursuit caught them. Not Rourke's cavalry, but the hired guns, professional killers who knew their trade. Gunfire erupted, muzzle flashes lighting the darkness like deadly fireflies. Taza's horse screamed and went down. She rolled clear, came up shooting, but they were outnumbered and in the open. Cal wheeled back, grabbed Taza's hand, pulled her up behind him as bullets whined past. "The mission!" Kaya shouted, but Cal saw riders cutting off that route. No, the mine. The old Crowell mine, the one that had killed Agnes's husband, loomed ahead, a black mouth in the hillside. They rode straight for it as bullets sparked off rocks around them. Inside was darkness absolute, but Cal knew these tunnels. He'd explored them out of curiosity months ago. He led them deep, following memory and instinct until the sounds of pursuit faded. "They won't follow," he said. "Too dangerous. These tunnels are unstable." "Wonderful," Taza muttered. They felt their way deeper, found a chamber where old mining equipment lay, rusted and forgotten. Cal risked a match-brief light showing squared timbers and an old ore cart. "We can't stay here," Kaya said. "No, but I saw something when I was here before." Cal felt along the wall, found what he was looking for, a metal box locked but rusted. He broke it open with a rock. Inside were papers wrapped in oilcloth. Cal lit another match, and Kaya gasped. They were ledgers, the complete records Agnes's husband had hidden before he died. Every transaction, every theft, every bribe documented in meticulous detail. "This is it," Kaya breathed. "This is everything." "We still have to get it out," Taza pointed out. "They'll be watching every exit." Cal smiled in the darkness. "Not every exit. There's an air shaft that comes out near the mission. It's a tight fit, but—" The gunshot was impossibly loud in the confined space. Cal spun, saw Rourke silhouetted in the tunnel entrance, smoke rising from his pistol. "Thought you were clever, didn't you?" Rourke advanced, more men behind him. "The Apache bitch poisoned Mrs. Crowell. She's dying. Only way to save her is that antidote." "It was water," Kaya said. "She poisoned herself with fear." Rourke's scarred face twisted. "Doesn't matter. She's signing papers right now, transferring authority to me. By morning, I'll own half this territory." "Over my dead body," Cal said. "That's the idea." Rourke aimed at Cal's head. "But first, the ladies get to watch." The arrow came from nowhere, from the darkness behind them where Taza had slipped away silent as a ghost. It took Rourke in the shoulder, spinning him around. His shot went wild, hitting a support beam. The crack was like thunder. Dust rained down, then pebbles, then larger rocks. The mine was collapsing. "Run!" Cal grabbed Kaya, the ledgers clutched against his chest as the mountain began to fall. They ran through darkness as the world ended behind them, the roar of collapsing stone swallowing Rourke's screams. The air shaft, Cal found it by feel, boosted Kaya up, then Taza, then climbed as rocks fell around him. They emerged gasping into starlight, covered in dust. The ledgers intact. Below, lanterns converged on the mine entrance, now sealed by tons of rock. "Rourke?" Kaya asked. "Dead, probably, along with anyone else who followed him in." Cal looked at the lights below. "But we're not safe yet." They made it to the mission as dawn broke. Father Miguel took one look at them and ushered them inside. Dr. Black was there treating Agnes Crowell, who was very much alive, though shaken. "You," Agnes snarled at Kaya, "you poisoned me." "I gave you water and fear," Kaya replied. "You poisoned yourself with guilt." Agnes tried to rise, but Dr. Black held her down. "Mrs. Crowell, you need rest. The strain on your heart." "Strain?" Cal pulled out the ledgers. "Let's talk about strain, Mrs. Crowell. Like the strain on Apache families when their food never arrives because you've been selling it." Agnes went very still, seeing the ledgers. "Where did you get those? Your husband hid them well. Guess he knew you'd kill him if you found them first." "You can't prove anything." "Your signature's on every page," Taza said, "along with Tanner's, Rourke's, and half the town council." The door burst open. Sheriff Tanner entered, gun drawn, but stopped short, seeing the crowd. Several Apache families had gathered along with townspeople, drawn by the commotion. "Lower the gun, Sheriff," Father Miguel said quietly. "This is a house of God." "These people are fugitives," Tanner said, but his voice lacked conviction. "These people," Ramon Ortega said, entering with fresh newspapers, "are heroes. Extra edition, the whole story's printed. Those ledgers, the theft ring, everything. Already sent copies to Tucson and Santa Fe." Tanner looked at Agnes, at the crowd, at the evidence laid out clear as day. He holstered his gun. "I need to send a telegram. Federal marshals need to know about Rourke's death." "Arrest them," Agnes shrieked. "No, ma'am." Tanner backed toward the door. "I don't think I will. I resign effective immediately." He looked at Cal. "For what it's worth. Whitaker, I'm sorry about your ranch." After he left, Agnes collapsed weeping, whether from rage or genuine remorse, none could say. Dr. Black sedated her, and within hours federal marshals arrived from Tucson, drawn by Ramon's telegrams and the promise of the biggest corruption scandal in territorial history. The investigation took weeks, but the results were decisive. Agnes Crowell lost everything her assets seized to compensate the Apache nations she'd robbed. Several officials went to prison. The reservation received its first honest shipment of supplies in years. Cal and Kaya stood at the ruins of the ranch planning to rebuild. Taza had ridden north carrying news to other Apache bands that justice, however rare, was possible. "That river oath," Cal said. "You mentioned it was binding by Apache law." "It is," Kaya agreed. "What about by your law, your personal law?" She looked at him, this scarred white man who'd risked everything for justice, who'd treated her as an equal from the first moment despite the knife at his throat. "Ask me again when the house is rebuilt," she said. "A woman needs a proper home." He smiled. "That's fair, though I should mention I snore." "I sharpen knives in my sleep," she countered. "We'll put the bed against the wall then, for safety." They were still negotiating sleeping arrangements when Ramon rode up, grinning wide. The governor's response just came in, full pardons for everyone involved and compensation for Cal's ranch. Plus, he handed over an official-looking document. "They're reopening the agency office, want someone honest to run it. Interested Mrs. Whitaker." Kaya looked at the paper, at Cal, at the mountains where her people lived. "Will they let me hire my own staff? That's the idea." "Then yes." She turned to Cal. "That means I'll need to stay in town during the week." "Guess I'll have to get used to visiting my wife," Cal said. "Though technically we still need to discuss whether this marriage is real or just convenience." Kaya pulled him close, kissed him thoroughly, then stepped back. "Does that answer your question?" "Raises a few more, actually," Cal said, slightly dazed. "But I can live with uncertainty." As the sun set over the Arizona territory, painting the desert in shades of gold and red, they stood together, a former Union scout and an Apache healer bound by a river oath that had become something neither expected, a partnership that would help heal a broken frontier, one small act of justice at a time. The ledgers would testify in federal court. Agnes Crowell would serve 5 years in prison. Sheriff Tanner would disappear into Mexico, and Lieutenant Rourke's body would never be found buried under tons of rock with his dark ambitions. But that was all to come. For now, Cal and Kaya stood in the ruins of the old, planning the new, while the spring that had started everything bubbled eternal and clean, indifferent to human schemes, flowing as it always had toward the distant river, where vows made in desperation had become promises worth keeping. The weeks following the mine collapse should have brought peace, but Cal knew better than to trust quiet times in the territory. He stood on the ridge overlooking what remained of his ranch, watching dust clouds on the horizon that meant riders coming fast. Beside him, Kaya loaded the Winchester he'd taught her to shoot, her movements smooth and practiced now. "How many?" she asked without looking up. 6, maybe 7. Moving with purpose. The lead rider broke from the group, approaching under a white flag. Cal recognized him immediately. Sergeant Moses McKittrick, one of the few honest men left in the territorial cavalry. His dark face was grim as he reined up below them. "Cal, Mrs. Whitaker, we need to talk." "Since when do you need 7 men for talking, Moses?" Cal kept his hand near his Colt. "Since Agnes Crowell escaped federal custody an hour ago." McKittrick's words hit like cold water. Guards, dead throat cut, professional work. She had help, expensive help. Kaya's knuckles went white on the rifle. The federal marshals said she was secured. "Money talks louder than bars, ma'am. She's got friends back east, railroad money. They can't afford to let her testify about their involvement in the supply theft." Cal studied the sergeant's tired eyes. "Why come to us?" "Because she left a message. Said to tell the Apache witch and her mongrel husband that she'll be collecting what's owed, personal-like." The threat hung between them like smoke from a distant fire. Cal had rebuilt his barn, first living in it, while working on the house foundation, and Kaya had been splitting her time between the ranch and her new position at the agency office. They'd found a rhythm, a careful dance toward something that might be real happiness. Now Agnes Crowell's shadow fell across it all again. "There's more," McKittrick continued. 3 Apache girls went missing from the reservation last night. Young ones, 13, 14 years old. Kaya's breath caught. "Who?" "Maria Bigay Jones Sosi and Anna Yazzie." "I know their families," Kaya whispered. "Job. Maria's mother does beadwork. She brought me a wedding gift last week." Cal saw the connection immediately. "Agnes is using them as bait." "Or merchandise," McKittrick said darkly. "There's talk of traders running Apache girls south to Mexico, selling them to the haciendas. Ugly business." And the Army's response, Cal already knew the answer. Official position is, they're runaways. No search ordered. McKittrick spat in the dust. Unofficial position is some officers think it's convenient fewer mouths to feed on the reservation. "Convenient," Kaya repeated, her voice dangerous. "Children being sold is convenient." "Not to me, ma'am, which is why I'm here unofficial-like. My patrol's going to be searching the southern passes for the next 3 days. Real thorough. Might not notice if someone else was searching the northern routes." Cal understood. McKittrick was giving them cover and intelligence. Any idea where Agnes might hole up? "The old Butterfield stage station at Skeleton Canyon. Been abandoned 5 years, but someone's been buying supplies and having them delivered there. Lot of supplies for a ghost town." After McKittrick left, Cal and Kaya prepared quickly. They couldn't wait for Taza. She was 2 days north, rallying her own people. This would have to be just them and whatever help they could gather in town. The ride to Coyote Wells revealed how much had changed. Without Tanner's protection, several of the corrupt merchants had fled. Others, seeing which way the wind blew, suddenly discovered their civic conscience. But Cal knew Agnes still had supporters, those whose crimes hadn't been proven, who'd profited from the shadows. At the newspaper office, Ramon was setting type one-handed, his left arm in a sling. Someone had tried to silence him 3 nights ago, but the old printer was tougher than he looked. "Agnes escaped mierda." Ramon reached for his pistol. "When do we ride?" "We need information first," Cal said. "Who's still loyal to her?" "The Brennan brothers, for certain. She owns their freight company's debts. Judge Wickham's been making noises about reversing the federal ruling. And there's a new player in town, man named Josiah Harding, claims to be a cattle buyer but asks too many questions." Dr. Miriam Black entered the office, medical bag in hand. "I've been expecting you. The mission received word about the missing girls. Father Miguel is praying, but I prefer direct action." "This isn't your fight, doctor," Kaya said. "Isn't it? I took an oath to do no harm. Sometimes that means preventing harm." She opened her bag, revealing not just medical supplies, but a Navy Colt. "My father was an abolitionist in Kansas. He taught me that freedom sometimes requires powder and shot." They were interrupted by hoofbeats. Through the window, Cal saw 3 riders approaching the Brennan brothers and the mysterious Josiah Harding. All armed, all wearing badges. "Since when are they deputies?" Cal asked. "Since this morning," Ramon said. "Judge Wickham swore them in, said the town needs order with Tanner gone." The door kicked open. Tom Brennan entered first, younger and meaner than his brother, hand already on his gun. "Whitaker, you're under arrest." "For what?" "Suspicion of murder. Lieutenant Rourke's body was found this morning." That was impossible. The mine had collapsed completely. Unless... Cal realized the trap. They hadn't found a body. They just needed an excuse. "Happy to come in," Cal said easily. "Let me get my coat." He moved toward the coat rack, then spun, drawing and firing in one motion. Tom Brennan's gun flew from his hand as Cal's bullet caught it. The younger man screamed, clutching his broken fingers. "Next one goes center mass, Tom. Now all of you guns on the floor. Slow." They complied, but Harding smiled. "You just assaulted a Deputy Whitaker. That's 5 years minimum." "Self-defense." Tom drew first. Cal looked at Ramon. "You saw it, right?" "Absolutely. Clear case of self-defense." Harding's smile widened. "A Mexican's testimony won't hold in Wickham's court." "How about mine?" Dr. Black stepped forward. "Or are you planning to dismiss a white woman's word, too?" The moment stretched taut, then Harding laughed. "Doesn't matter. You want to know where Agnes is. She's exactly where you think she is. Skeleton Canyon, with those girls and 20 hired guns. She wants you to come, Whitaker, especially your Apache bride. Something about unfinished business." "It's a trap," Dr. Black said after they left. "Of course it is," Cal agreed. "But those girls are real, and their danger is real." Kaya had been silent, but now she spoke. "We need help. Real help. Who the army won't. Not the army. My people. The ones who never went to the reservation." She looked at Cal. "The Broncos, the wild ones, Victorio's band." Cal knew the name. Victorio was a ghost, a warrior who refused surrender, hitting supply trains and disappearing into the Mexican mountains. The army had a shoot-on-sight order for him and his fighters. "Can you find them?" "No, but they can find us. If we go to Skeleton Canyon, make ourselves visible, they'll know. Apache girls taken for slavery, they won't let that stand." It was desperate, but they were out of options. They gathered what supplies they could: ammunition, medical supplies, food. As they prepared to leave, Father Miguel appeared. "I cannot fight," the old priest said, "but I can pray, and I can do this." He handed Cal a leather pouch. "From the church treasury, $200 in gold. Sometimes salvation requires earthly currency." They rode out at sunset, 3 unlikely allies: a former Union scout, an Apache agency administrator, and a Boston doctor turned frontier medic. The trail to Skeleton Canyon wound through harsh country, all red rock and thorny ocotillo, the kind of land that killed the careless and the weak. They camped that night in a box canyon Cal knew defensible, but with good escape routes. Kaya built a fire in the Apache way, smoke that would rise straight and far, visible for miles to those who knew how to look. "Will they come?" Dr. Black asked. "If they're watching, they already know we're here," Kaya said. "The question is whether they trust us enough to—" A pebble clattered down the canyon wall. Cal's hand found his gun, but Kaya touched his arm. "Don't." Figures materialized from the shadows, Apache warriors painted for war, moving silent as death. Their leader was a man Cal recognized from wanted posters, Nana Victorio's lieutenant, 70 years old, and still deadly as a rattlesnake. "You are the woman who speaks for the agency," Nana said to Kaya in Apache. "I am. And this is the white man who killed his own kind to protect you. He is my husband." Nana studied Cal with eyes that had seen too much. "I knew a white man once who kept his word. He died badly. Will you die badly, white man?" "Probably," Cal said in passable Apache. "But not today." The old warrior almost smiled. You speak our language like a child, but you speak it. He squatted by the fire. Tell me about the stolen girls. Kaya explained quickly, leaving nothing out. Nana listened, his weathered face growing harder with each word. How many guns guard them? 20, maybe more. We are 12. Nana considered. Not enough for a direct attack. I have an idea, Dr. Black said suddenly. Agnes is wounded. I treated her. She needs regular medicine for her heart. Without it, she'll die within days. So I'm her doctor. She'll let me in to treat her. Once inside, you'll be searched, Cal interrupted. They're not stupid. They won't search my medical bag thoroughly, not if I'm actually treating her. She pulled out a small bottle. Chloroform, enough to knock out half the compound if used right. Nana looked at this white woman with new respect. You would do this. Those girls deserve freedom. All children do. They planned through the night using sticks and stones to map the stage station. Cal knew the layout from years past main building stable well house, all surrounded by a chest-high adobe wall. Defensible, but not impregnable. Dawn came pale and violent red, painting the canyon walls like blood. They moved out in two groups. Nana's warriors would circle wide, take position in the rocks above the station. Cal, Kaya, and Dr. Black would approach openly, counting on Agnes's arrogance to let them close. The Butterfield station squatted in the canyon like a cancer window's boarded walls pocked with old bullet holes from Apache raids. But smoke rose from the chimney and Cal counted 8 guards visible, which meant at least that many more hidden. They were still half a mile out when riders intercepted them, the Brennan brothers again, Tom's hand bandaged but his gun hand steady with his left. Expected you sooner, Whitaker, Tom sneered. The boss lady's getting impatient. They were escorted through the gate, guns trained on them from every window. In the courtyard, Cal saw them, 3 Apache girls, huddled by the well chains on their ankles, eyes hollow with fear. Kaya made a sound low in her throat, quickly suppressed. Agnes Crowell emerged from the main building and Cal barely recognized her. Prison had aged her 10 years, her hair gone gray, her face gaunt, but her eyes burned with the same cold fire. The happy couple, she said, and Dr. Black, how touching, come to negotiate for the girls. Name your price, Cal said simply. Price? Oh, they're not for sale. They're already bought and paid for. A hacienda owner in Sonora who appreciates exotic beauty. Agnes smiled at Kaya's expression. Don't look so shocked, dear. It's simply business, supply and demand. Let Dr. Black examine them, Kaya said. Ensure they're healthy. Dead merchandise won't profit anyone. Agnes considered, then laughed. Ever practical. Yes, doctor, examine them, ensure my investment is sound. Dr. Black moved to the girls, speaking softly, her medical bag open. Cal saw her palm something, slip it to the oldest girl, with whispered instructions. The girl's eyes widened slightly, then she nodded almost imperceptibly. They're malnourished but not seriously harmed, Dr. Black reported. Though you need your medicine, Mrs. Crowell, your pulse is irregular. Then treat me, doctor. They moved inside Agnes, keeping Kaya and Cal covered, while Dr. Black prepared an injection. The interior was a arsenal rifle stacked like cordwood boxes of ammunition, everything needed for a small war. You're not just selling those girls, Cal said. You're running guns to the Comancheros. Diversification, Mr. Whitaker. The railroad consortium I represent has many interests. Agnes winced as the needle went in. They're quite upset about the interruption to their plans. Your little revelation cost them millions. Good, Kaya said flatly. Agnes's eyes flashed. You destroyed everything I built. My reputation, my fortune, my future. Do you know what prison is like for someone of my standing? Better than what those girls face. Agnes slapped Kaya hard, the crack echoing in the room. Kaya didn't flinch, just smiled slowly, blood on her lip. Feel better. Before Agnes could respond, an explosion rocked the building, then another. The ammunition stores the chloroform Dr. Black had given the girl must have reached the right hands. Gunfire erupted outside Nana's warriors, attacking from the heights while chaos reigned in the courtyard. Agnes grabbed for a gun, but Cal was faster, knocking her down as Kaya snatched a rifle from the wall. "The girls!" Kaya shouted. They fought their way outside into madness. Smoke billowed from the stable horses, screaming men shooting at shadows. The Apache warriors moved like ghosts, appearing just long enough to kill before vanishing. Cal saw the oldest girl had picked her chain's lock. Dr. Black must have slipped her a pick with the chloroform. She was freeing the others when Tom Brennan appeared, raising his rifle. Cal's shot took him center mass. Tom looked surprised, then fell forward into the dust. His brother Will screamed rage, charging at Cal with a knife, but Kaya's rifle butt caught him in the temple, dropping him cold. "Move, move." Cal herded the girls toward the gate while Kaya covered them. Dr. Black appeared supporting a wounded Apache warrior, her dress soaked with blood, not hers. They almost made it. Then Josiah Harding stepped from the smoke, 2 guns drawn, smiling his cold smile. "Going somewhere." Cal pushed the girls behind him. "Walk away, Harding. This isn't your fight anymore." "Oh, but it is. See, I'm not really a cattle buyer. I'm a Pinkerton detective hired to recover stolen railroad assets. Those girls are assets. So is Mrs. Crowell. They're children. They're property legally purchased from their families on the reservation." "That's a lie," Kaya snarled. "Is it I have bills of sale, thumbprints and everything. Amazing what starving people will agree to." He was so focused on them he didn't see Nana until the old warrior's knife slipped between his ribs. Harding gasped, guns falling from nerveless fingers. "No one sells Apache children," Nana said quietly, twisting the blade. "No one." Harding fell, his blood soaking into the thirsty ground. Around them, the gunfire was dying down. Agnes's mercenaries either dead or fleeing into the desert where more Apache warriors waited. They found Agnes in the main building trying to burn papers in the fireplace. Cal pulled her back, Kaya salvaging what she could. Contracts, correspondence, names of railroad officials involved in the trafficking ring. "You're dead." Agnes gasped, her medicine wearing off her face gray. "All of you. They'll never stop hunting you." "Let them come," Cal said. Dr. Black checked Agnes's pulse, then filled another syringe. "This will keep you alive long enough to testify. After that, I make no promises." They loaded Agnes into a wagon, the freed girls choosing to ride with Nana's band back to their hidden camps rather than return to the reservation. Cal understood they'd found freedom with the Broncos that the reservation couldn't offer. "This isn't over," Kaya said as they watched the warriors disappear into the canyon. "No," Cal agreed, "but it's a start." The ride back to Coyote Wells took 2 days, Agnes unconscious. Most of the way, Dr. Black keeping her barely stable. They expected resistance, but the town was oddly quiet, people watching from windows as they passed. At the jail, they found why. Federal Marshal John Dorsey waited with a dozen men, having ridden hard from Tucson. Ramon's telegrams had done their work. "Cal Whitaker, I'll take custody of the prisoner." "There are more involved," Cal said, handing over the papers. "Railroad men, government officials. We'll handle it," Dorsey promised, "though I'll need statements from all of you." It took 3 days of testimony, but when it was done, the trafficking ring was broken. 17 arrests across 3 territories, railroad executives fleeing to Europe, a scandal that reached Washington itself. Judge Wickham tried to flee but was caught at the Mexican border. The Brennan brothers' Will survived with a concussion, got 20 years hard labor. Agnes Crowell would eventually hang, though she'd spend months trying to trade information for her life. Cal and Kaya stood once more at their ranch, now truly beginning to rebuild. The federal government, embarrassed by the scandal, had approved compensation enough to build properly, to buy stock, to make a real go of it. "Taza's coming back next week," Kaya said, reading a letter. She's bringing 3 families who want to homestead nearby. Apache neighbors. That'll give the town something to talk about. Let them talk. Kaya turned to him. Cal, about the river oath. You said to ask again when the house was built. The foundation's laid. That's a start. She took his hand. I know we began as strangers, united by desperation, but somewhere between then and now, I fell in love with you. Cal finished. Probably when you stood up to Agnes that first time, blood on your lip, smiling like you'd won. That late, I loved you when you kissed me by the river, trying so hard to make it look real for Rourke. It was real. I know, that's why I loved you. Dr. Black interrupted them, riding up with urgent news. There's been a development. The Army's assigning a new commander to Fort Buchanan, Colonel Marcus Wade. He has a reputation. Good or bad? Cal asked. Efficient. He believes in order above all, and he's already issued new restrictions on Apache movement, even for those with papers. Kaya's eye hardened. Then our fight's not over. Did we think it would be? Cal asked. This is the frontier. The fight's never over. It just changes shape. That night, they received an unexpected visitor. Nana appeared at their fire like a shadow given form, bringing news from Victorio. The Broncos will remember what you did, he told them in Apache. The girls you saved tell stories of the white man and woman who risked everything. This is rare. We did what was right, Kaya said. Yes, that is what makes it rare. Nana studied them. Hard times are coming. This new colonel will try to break both the reservation and the free bands. When that time comes, will you stand with us again? Cal and Kaya exchanged glances. They'd wanted peace, a quiet life, but the territory wouldn't allow it, not while injustice wore a uniform and carried federal authority. We'll stand, Cal said. Nana nodded, satisfied. Then we are allies. Not friends, too much blood between our peoples for that, but allies. He disappeared into the darkness, leaving them with the weight of future conflicts. Dr. Black stayed for dinner, bringing news from town. The new preachers arrived. Reverend Holcomb from Ohio. He's already preaching against mixed marriages. Yours specifically? Cal asked. Among others. He seems to believe God color-coded people for a reason. Then he'll be disappointed to learn we're planning a proper church wedding, Kaya said. Father Miguel's agreed to officiate. That'll set the cat among the pigeons. Dr. Black smiled. Count me as a witness. After she left, Cal and Kaya sat by their fire watching stars emerge in the desert skimo. The ranch was taking shape around them. New corral foundation for a proper house, even a small garden where Kaya grew herbs and vegetables. Do you regret it? Cal asked suddenly. The river oath. You could have found another way, with a knife at your throat. Kaya laughed. No, Cal, I don't regret it. That moment by the water changed everything, but not in the way I expected. I thought I was trapping you to save myself. Instead, I freed us both. Freed us into a world of trouble. Better than a world of silence. She leaned against him. Besides, someone needs to keep you from getting shot. That's your job now. Among other things, teaching you proper Apache. Your pronunciation still sounds like a sick coyote. They were still laughing when they heard horses, lots of them moving fast. Cal grabbed his rifle, Kaya her pistol, but the riders carried torches, showing themselves openly. It was Colonel Wade with a full cavalry troop, 30 men armed and ready for war. The colonel himself was everything the reports suggested. Ramrod, straight, gray-bearded eyes like winter. Mr. Whitaker, I understand you harbor Apache fugitives. I harbor my wife and her family, all legal residents. Legal, yes. Wade dismounted his men, remaining ready. I've read the reports. Quite the hero, aren't you, exposing corruption, saving children. The newspapers back east love you. Just trying to live quietly, Colonel. Quietly. Wade looked around the ranch. With Apache visitors who come and go in darkness, with connections to Victorio's Broncos. That's not quiet, Whitaker. That's conspiracy. Conspiracy to what ranch cattle? Wade stepped closer. I know what you are. Indian lover, race traitor, the kind of man who'd see the white race mongrelized out of existence. I see you've met Reverend Holcomb, Cal said dryly. Wade's hand went to his saber. Mock me again, a newspaper hero or not, I'll have you in irons. On what charge? Kaya stepped forward. Being Apache marrying white or just existing in your perfect world? Wade looked at her with undisguised disgust. Your kind will be back on the reservation soon enough, all of you. The experiment of integration has failed. Has it? Because from where I stand, the only failure is men like you who see difference as threat. Wade raised his hand to strike her, but Cal's rifle was suddenly between them. Touch her and you'll need a new hand, Colonel. The moment balanced on a knife's edge. 30 guns against 2, but Cal knew the type of man Wade was. He needed legal authority for his violence. Without it, he was just another thug. Wade lowered his hand. You've made an enemy today, Whitaker. Get in line. The colonel remounted. New orders go into effect tomorrow. Any Apache off reservation without military escort will be shot. Any white found helping them will be arrested for treason. Your wife's agency position is terminated effective immediately. You can't do that, Kaya protested. The federal government appointed me. The federal government has new priorities. Indians are to be concentrated, controlled, and eventually eliminated through assimilation or attrition. Choose which. They watched the cavalry ride away, torches fading into darkness. The threat hung over them like storm clouds, the promise of violence delayed but not forgotten. We could leave, Cal said quietly. California, Oregon somewhere, they don't know us. And abandon my people when they need us most. Kaya shook her head. This is our ground, Cal. We make our stand here. Then we'd better prepare for war. Yes. She looked at the stars, ancient and indifferent. But first, we finish building our home. Let them see we're not going anywhere. They worked through the night, laying adobe bricks by lamplight, building their future, even as their enemies plotted to destroy it. It was an act of defiance as old as humanity itself, choosing to create in the face of those who could only destroy. By dawn, the walls were shoulder high, and in the distance they could see dust clouds that meant more riders coming. Whether friend or foe remained to be seen, but Cal and Kaya stood ready, united by a river oath that had become something stronger than law or tradition, a love forged in conflict and tempered by shared purpose. The territory would test them. Colonel Wade would try to break them. The forces of hatred and greed would align against them. But here on this small ranch where a spring bubbled eternal, they would endure. The fight was far from over. In truth, it was just beginning. The dust clouds weren't cavalry after all, but something almost worse. Reverend Holcomb's congregation, 20 strong, carrying torches and righteousness in equal measure. Cal set down his adobe brick hand, drifting to his holster as the mob approached their half-built walls. Whitaker, Holcomb's voice boomed across the morning air. We've come to pray for your immortal soul. Pray from a distance, Reverend. You're on private property. The preacher was a thin scarecrow of a man, all angles and fervor, his eyes burning with the particular madness of those who'd confused their own hatred for God's will. The Lord's work knows no boundaries. You're living in sin with that heathen woman. Kaya stepped forward, her voice cutting like winter wind. We're legally married, Reverend, both by Apache custom and territorial law. Man's law, Holcomb spat. God's law forbids the mixing of the races. It's an abomination. Strange. Dr. Black's voice came from behind them. She'd ridden up during the confrontation. I must have missed that particular commandment. Was it before or after love thy neighbor? The crowd shifted uneasily. Many respected the doctor who'd saved their children from fever and their wives from difficult births. Holcomb's face reddened. Dr. Black, your Eastern education has clearly corrupted your understanding of Scripture. Has it? Then explain to me, Reverend, where Christ said anything about race. Chapter and verse, please. The moment stretched taut as Holcomb struggled for a response. Then one of his followers, a young hothead named Samuel Pritchard, made the mistake of reaching for his gun. Cal's draw was liquid lightning. The gun was in his hand before Pritchard's cleared leather, the click of the hammer cocking loud in the sudden silence. Boy, Cal said softly, you're about to meet your maker over a theological dispute. That what you want? Pritchard's hand froze. The mob took a collective step back, remembering who Cal Whitaker was, the best scout the Union had, deadly with gun or blade, a man who'd survived 3 years behind enemy lines. Everyone calm down, Dr. Black said, moving between the groups. Reverend, these people are legally married. If you have issue with that, take it to the courts, not their doorstep. The courts are corrupted by federal interference, Holcomb snarled, but God's justice will prevail. Mark my words, Whitaker, this unholy union will bring nothing but suffering. They left, but Cal knew they'd be back. Men like Holcomb fed on conflict like buzzards on carrion. As the mob disappeared over the ridge, Taza rode in from the opposite direction, her horse lathered with sweat. Trouble, she said, without preamble. Colonel Wade started his roundup. Every Apache in town without papers is being arrested. Those with papers are being escorted back to the reservation. Define escorted, Cal said grimly. Beaten, robbed, and dumped at San Carlos with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Taza dismounted, anger radiating from every line of her body. 3 families who were homesteading legally gone, their land already claimed by white settlers. Who's organizing the settlers? Kaya asked, though she already suspected. Judge Wickham's cousin just arrived from Missouri. Bradley Wickham, already filing claims on every Apache homestead, saying they've been abandoned. Cal felt the trap closing. Wade provided the military pressure, Holcomb the moral justification, and now the Wickhams would profit from the theft. It was the same old pattern, dressed in new clothes. We need to get word to the federal authorities, Dr. Black said. Already tried, Taza replied. Telegraph lines have been cut. Stagecoach was robbed yesterday. Driver says the bandits were very interested in outgoing mail. They were being isolated, cut off from outside help, while Wade tightened his noose. Cal had seen this before during the war: surround, isolate, then destroy. Ramon, he said suddenly, is his press still running? For now, Taza said, but there's talk of charging him with sedition. Then we'd better move fast. Cal grabbed his rifle. Kaya, can you and Taza get to the hidden Apache camps? We need witnesses, people who'll testify about what Wade's doing. They won't come forward, Kaya said. Too dangerous. They will for you. You saved those girls. You're the one who exposed Agnes. They trust you. She nodded slowly. What about you? Doc and I are going to town. Time to play politics. The ride to Coyote Wells felt like entering enemy territory. Wade's soldiers were everywhere, checking papers, hassling anyone with a drop of native blood. They stopped Cal and Dr. Black 3 times, only letting them pass when the doctor claimed medical emergency. Ramon's office was surrounded by a crowd, Bradley Wickham standing on a crate addressing them. Federal government has abandoned you, left you to the mercy of savages and race traitors. But we, the true citizens of this territory, will restore order. By stealing Apache land, Cal called out, pushing through the crowd. Wickham turned his smile cold. Ah, the infamous Cal Whitaker. Come to defend your squaw's people. Come to defend the law. Those homesteads were legally granted. To Indians who've now abandoned them, the land reverts to the territory. After they were forced off at gunpoint. Prove it, Wickham challenged. Show me one witness who'll testify that the army did anything illegal. That's when Ramon emerged from his office, ink-stained and defiant. I'll testify. I've been documenting every forced removal, every beating, every theft. A Mexican's word against the United States Army? Wickham laughed. Good luck with that. The crowd was getting ugly, some supporting Wickham, others remembering Ramon's years of honest reporting. Cal saw hands drifting toward weapons and made a decision. Then how about the word of a white woman? Dr. Black stepped forward. I've been treating the victims of Colonel Wade's escorts. Broken bones, gunshot wounds, rape. The last word hit like a thunderbolt. The crowd went silent. That's a serious accusation, Doctor, Wickham said carefully. It's a serious crime. Mary Yazzie, age 16, violated by 3 soldiers while her family was forced to watch. Should I continue? Some in the crowd, the mothers, the decent men, began to shift uncomfortably. This wasn't what they'd signed up for. But before the moment could turn, Colonel Wade himself arrived with a squad of soldiers. Dr. Black, Mr. Ortega, you're under arrest. For what? Cal demanded. Sedition, inciting violence, and spreading false reports about the United States Army. Cal's hand found his gun. Like hell they are. Stand down, Whitaker, or join them. The soldiers raised their rifles. Cal counted odds angles, probably outcomes. He could take 3, maybe 4 before they got him, but that wouldn't help Ramon or the doctor. It's all right, Cal, Dr. Black said quietly. Sometimes the best battlefield is a courtroom. They were shackled and loaded into a prison wagon. As it pulled away, Ramon called out, "The press, keep it running." Cal understood. Even if Ramon was jailed, the newspaper had to continue. But who could? I'll do it. The voice came from an unexpected source, Mrs. Henderson from the general store. She stood straight-backed, despite her 60 years facing down the colonel's glare. You'll what? Wade demanded. Run the press. I know how Ramon taught me when my husband was sick, so I could help with the books. That's illegal. Women can't. Show me the law, she challenged. Show me where it says a widow can't run a business. Wade's jaw clenched, but he had no answer. The law, ironically, was on her side. As his troops marched away, Mrs. Henderson turned to Cal. Better help me move that press somewhere safe. They'll burn the office tonight, mark my words. They worked fast, dismantling the heavy press and loading it onto a wagon. Cal was tightening the last rope when Kaya and Taza returned with unexpected company, Father Miguel, and 6 Apache families who'd fled the roundup. They were hiding in the mission, Father Miguel explained, but Colonel Wade threatens to search even there. Sanctuary means nothing to him, one of the Apache men said bitterly. He says we're not people, so we have no rights. Cal looked at the frightened family's elders, women, children, and made another decision. The ranch, it's defensible, and I'll shoot any man who tries to force you off. You'll be harboring fugitives, Father Miguel warned. According to Wade, maybe. According to the law, I'm sheltering legal residents who've been illegally displaced. Cal turned to Mrs. Henderson. We'll set up the press in my barn, print the truth where they can't stop us. The convoy back to the ranch felt like a retreat, but also like something else, the gathering of forces for a last stand. As they crested the ridge, Cal saw more riders approaching. His hand went to his gun, then relaxed. It was Moses McKittrick with 3 other Buffalo soldiers, all men Cal knew from the war. Heard you might need help, Moses said simply. You're going against orders. We're on leave. What we do with our time is our business. Moses looked at the Apache families. Besides, we know what it's like to be told we're not really people. They spent the rest of the day fortifying, digging defensive positions, setting up the press, organizing supplies. Mrs. Henderson and Kaya worked on the next edition, documenting Wade's crimes with sworn affidavits from the Apache families. As the sun set, Father Miguel held an impromptu service, Apache and white and black and Mexican all together. Reverend Holcomb would have called it blasphemy. Cal called it America, the real America, not the narrow vision men like Wade wanted to impose. That night, Kaya woke Cal with a hand over his mouth. Listen, horses moving slow and quiet, many horses. Cal rolled out of bed, grabbing his rifle. Through the window he could see torches, dozens of them surrounding the ranch. "Whitaker," Colonel Wade's voice rang out. "You have 1 minute to surrender the fugitives, or we're coming in." Cal looked at Kaya. "How many fighters do we have? 8 who can shoot, maybe 10. Against what looked like 40 soldiers plus however many vigilantes Wade had recruited. The odds were impossible. Kaya said quietly, "If we surrender the families, we don't surrender anyone." Cal's voice was iron. "Ever." He stepped onto the porch, rifle ready. "Colonel Wade, these people are under my protection." "Your protection means nothing. You're harboring criminals. I'm harboring American residents on American soil. You want them come through me." Wade laughed. "Gladly." The first shot came from the darkness. Not from Wade's men, but from behind them. Then another. Muzzle flashes lit the night as unseen shooters engaged Wade's forces from the rear. "Ambush!" someone screamed. "Apache!" But Cal recognized the shooting pattern, disciplined, measured, not Apache. Then he heard it, a rebel yell that sent him back 15 years. Confederate cavalry riding hard out of the darkness, scattering Wade's line. The leader pulled up at Cal's porch, and in the torchlight Cal recognized Jake Tatum, the same man whose gun he'd emptied in the saloon weeks ago. Behind him rode 20 Confederate veterans, all armed, all fighting mad. "Heard you were having a party, Whitaker," Jake said. "Thought we'd invite ourselves." "Why?" Cal couldn't hide his shock. "I'm everything you hate." "Maybe, but that bastard Wade arrested my nephew yesterday. Boy's only crime was having a Mexican mother." Jake spat tobacco juice. "Enemy of my enemy and all that." The firing had stopped Wade's forces, retreating in confusion. In the sudden quiet, Cal heard something else, drums. Apache war drums echoing from the ridges. Victorio's Broncos were out there waiting. Wade regrouped his men, but his advantage was gone. He was surrounded, Confederate veterans on one side, Apache warriors on the other, and Cal's desperate defenders in the middle. "This isn't over, Whitaker," Wade shouted. "No." Cal agreed. "But tonight it is. Get off my land." Wade withdrew, but everyone knew he'd be back with more men. This was just the first skirmish in what would be a long war. As the dust settled, Jake Tatum dismounted. "Don't expect us to be friends, Whitaker, but Wade threatens everything. White, Mexican, Indian, doesn't matter. Man wants to be king. So what do you propose? Alliance, temporary, until Wade's gone." Cal looked at Kaya, who nodded slowly. "Alliance," he agreed, offering his hand. Jake took it, the handshake of former enemies united against a common threat. Around them, Apache, Mexican, white, and black began the strange process of becoming allies. Not friends, perhaps never that, but allies nonetheless. Mrs. Henderson emerged from the barn. "First edition's ready. Headline, Colonel Wade wages war on American citizens." "How do we distribute it?" Kaya asked. "They'll stop anyone leaving the ranch." That's when Taza smiled. "The Broncos have been running supplies past Army patrols for years. Let them try to stop Apache runners in Apache land." Through the night, copies of the newspapers spread across the territory carried by Apache runners, Confederate riders, Buffalo soldiers on leave. By dawn, everyone would know what Wade had done. But Cal knew this was just the beginning. Wade had resources, federal authority, and the hatred of those who saw any mixing of races as a threat. The alliance they'd formed tonight was fragile, held together only by immediate danger. As the allies dispersed to rest and plan, Kaya found Cal standing watch. "You know, this can't last," she said. "Jake Tatum and his men, they'll turn on us the moment Wade's gone." "I know, but right now we need them. And Victorio's warriors, they're fighting for different reasons. They want all whites gone, not just Wade." "I know that too." She leaned against him. "Then what are we really fighting for?" Cal looked out at the land, harsh, beautiful, unforgiving. A chance, just a chance that maybe someday people can be judged by what they do, not what they are. That's a dream worth dying for. It's a dream worth living for. The dying's just what might be required. A rifle shot cracked through the darkness, the bullet sparking off a rock near Cal's head. Then another and another. Wade hadn't left. He'd circled back, set up sniper positions. "Everyone down!" Cal shouted, pulling Kaya to cover as the ranch erupted in gunfire once again. The second battle for the ranch had begun, and this time Wade wasn't planning to withdraw. Through the chaos, Cal heard the colonel's voice, cold and clear. "No quarter, no prisoners, clean them all out." The real war had started, and there would be no easy alliance, no simple victory. Just blood and struggle and the faint hope that somehow, against all odds, justice might prevail in a land that had forgotten what justice meant. The bullets kept coming, methodical and deadly, keeping everyone pinned, while Wade's men advanced under cover of darkness. Cal counted muzzle flashes, at least 6 sharpshooters, probably more. They'd walked into a killing box. "The barn!" Kaya shouted over the gunfire. "They're trying to burn the barn." Cal saw the flames licking at the base of the structure where Mrs. Henderson's press had just printed truth. He started to rise, but Moses grabbed him down as a bullet whined past. "That's what they want, draw you out, pick you off. The press is just metal and wood. People matter more." But one of the Apache boys, no more than 14, didn't wait for permission. He sprinted toward the barn with a bucket of water, moving like his ancestors had for generations, swift, unpredictable. A rifle cracked. The boy spun and fell. "Miguel!" His mother's scream tore through the night. Dr. Black started crawling toward the fallen boy, but Jake Tatum was already moving, providing covering fire with deadly accuracy. "Confederate or not, nobody shoots children on my watch." His men joined in their rebel yells, echoing as they laid down, suppressing fire. Dr. Black reached Miguel, dragged him to cover. Cal saw her working frantically, pressing cloth to a wound that looked too dark, too wet. "We need to break their line," Taza said, appearing beside Cal like a ghost, "or they'll bleed us dry." "How they have position and numbers." Taza smiled grimly. "They have position here, but Victorio's warriors are behind them. They just need a signal." "What kind of signal?" Instead of answering, Taza put 2 fingers to her lips and whistled, not loud but strange, carrying in a way that seemed to bend the very air. An answer came from the ridges, then another, then dozens. The Apache were moving. Wade must have heard it too, because his voice rang out. "Stand fast, it's a trick, maintain positions." But Cal heard uncertainty in the colonel's tone. Being surrounded by unseen Apache in their own territory would unnerve any soldier, even veterans. "Push them," Cal told Moses. "Make them look our way." Moses and his Buffalo soldiers opened up with disciplined volley fire, their Springfields booming in sequence. Jake's Confederates joined in old rivalries, forgotten in the face of common purpose. Then the Apache struck from behind, not with guns but with arrows, silent and deadly. Wade's sharpshooters started screaming, dark shafts sprouting from backs and necks. The covering fire faltered. "Now!" Cal shouted. They charged from 3 directions, Cal leading the ranchers, Jake's riders sweeping from the left, Moses's soldiers from the right. The Apache families fired from the windows, even the women and older children who could handle rifles. Wade's line shattered. Men fled into the darkness only to find Victorio's warriors waiting. Some threw down their weapons, begging quarter. Others fought to the last, dying in the dust. They'd come to water with innocent blood. Cal found himself face to face with Wade. Himself, the colonel's caber gleaming in the firelight. Wade was old school, trained at West Point, and his blade work showed it. Cal barely got his rifle up in time to block the first cut. The saber sheared through the rifle's stock like paper. Cal rolled aside as Wade's second strike sparked off stone where his head had been. He came up with his Colt, but Wade kicked it from his hand, the saber already descending. Metal rang on metal as Kaya's knife caught the blade inches from Cal's neck. She'd appeared from nowhere, her face fierce with protective rage. Wade snarled, trying to overpower her, but Apache women were strong from generations of survival. "You dare raise steel against a white officer?" Wade gasped. I dare protect my husband from a murderer, Kaya replied, twisting her blade in a way that sent Wade's saber flying. The colonel reached for his pistol, but Cal was already moving. His fist caught Wade's jaw with all the force of years of war and loss. Wade dropped unconscious before he hit the ground. Around them, the battle was ending. Wade's surviving men were surrendering or fleeing. The barn fire had been controlled, the press saved. But the cost? Dr. Black looked up from where she knelt beside Miguel, her face saying everything. The boy's mother cradled him singing an Apache death song that made strong men weep. He was trying to save the truth, Mrs. Henderson said quietly, trying to save the press. Then he didn't die for nothing, Father Miguel said, though tears tracked through the dust on his face. Every word we print honors his sacrifice. Jake Tatum approached Cal blood on his shirt, not his own. We lost 3 men, good men. This alliance of ours is getting expensive. You want to quit? Jake spat. Hell no. Wade killed boys tonight, Confederate or Union Apache or white that crosses every line. He looked at Miguel's still form. We finish this. Dawn came like judgment, revealing the battlefield their ranch had become. 20 of Wade's men lay dead, another dozen wounded. Cal had them gathered in the barn, Dr. Black treating enemies and allies alike, despite her exhaustion. Wade himself sat tied to a post, conscious now, his eyes burning with undiminished hatred. You think you've won something? I'm a United States Army officer. Attacking me is treason. Defending our homes is treason, Kaya asked. Then the word has no meaning. Your home, this is white land savage. Always was, always will be. That's when Nana appeared, the old Apache warrior materializing from shadows, as was his way. He studied Wade with eyes that had seen decades of such men. White land, Nana said in perfect English, surprising everyone. Boy, I hunted these hills before your grandfather was born. My father's father knew every spring, every trail. You've been here 20 years and call it yours. We've been here 20 generations. Might makes right, Wade replied. We won. You lost. Did you? Nana pulled out something unexpected, official papers. These are land grants signed by the Mexican government before your war, recognizing Apache territorial rights. Never rescinded, just ignored. Cal took the papers, examining them. They were genuine, with official seals and signatures. Where did you get these? From a Mexican lawyer in Tucson who remembers when law meant something. Nana smiled coldly at Wade. Your own Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo says existing land rights must be respected. We have proof of ownership older than your United States. Wade's face went purple. No court will recognize savage claims. A federal court might. A new voice interrupted. Everyone turned to see a man in a dusty black suit, riding up thin, scholarly, definitely Eastern. James Morrison, federal prosecutor. I've been investigating Colonel Wade for 6 months. Investigating me. Wade struggled against his bonds. For what? Embezzlement, for starters. Those supplies meant for the reservation that never arrived. You've been selling them to miners pocketing the money. Morrison dismounted, pulling out a leather portfolio. We have your bank records, Colonel. Deposits matching every missing shipment. The revelation hit like thunder. Even Wade's own men looked shocked. They'd thought they were following orders, not enabling theft. But that's just the beginning, Morrison continued. Murder of civilians, rape, ethnic cleansing, the list goes on. Mrs. Henderson's newspapers have been very helpful in documenting your crimes. Mrs. Henderson stood straighter, pride and grief warring on her face. Every word true, every word witnessed. Morrison approached Cal. Mr. Whitaker, I need statements from everyone. This ranch is now under federal protection until the investigation is complete. How did you get here? Moses asked. The telegraph lines are cut. Victorio's people guided me through the mountains. Apparently someone sent word to Tucson about what was happening here. He looked at Kaya. Your message got through, Mrs. Whitaker. Kaya looked surprised. I didn't send— I did, Dr. Black said quietly. 3 days ago, before they arrested me, one of Victorio's runners carried it out. Wade laughed bitterly. You think this changes anything? I have friends in Washington, connections you can't imagine. I'll be free in a month. Perhaps, Morrison agreed, which is why we're not taking you to a military court. He smiled thinly. You're being charged in federal civil court. Your military status won't protect you there. As Wade was loaded into a prison wagon, his remaining men under guard, Cal noticed movement on the ridges. Victorio's warriors were leaving, melting back into the mountains they knew so well. But Nana remained approaching Cal and Kaya. This alliance, it ends now, the old warrior said. We helped because it served our purpose. Wade threatened everyone, but don't mistake this for friendship, white man. I don't, Cal said honestly, but it was an honor fighting beside you. Nana studied him. You fought well for a white man. Your woman fought better. He looked at Kaya. You could come with us. Live free in the mountains, not on your knees in their world. My fight is here, Kaya replied. Someone needs to stand between the worlds. Speak for those who can't. Then you'll die between worlds. Nana said, but not unkindly. Still, there are worse deaths. He vanished into the landscape, leaving only dust and memory. Jake Tatum was preparing to leave too, his surviving Confederates mounted and ready. He approached Cal, something like respect in his eyes. This doesn't make us friends, Whitaker. I know. Your wife, she's got sand, I'll give her that. Maybe all Indians aren't what I thought. It was as close to an apology as Cal would get, and he accepted it with a nod. Jake mounted up, then turned back. That ranch of yours you're going to need help rebuilding. I know some boys who owe me favors good with hammer and saw. Might send them your way. Obliged, Jake. The Confederates rode off, and suddenly the ranch felt empty, despite the Apache families, the Buffalo Soldiers, everyone who remained. The alliance had served its purpose and dissolved, leaving only the question of what came next. Morrison spent 3 days taking testimony, documenting everything. The Apache families spoke of forced marches, stolen children, murdered relatives. Moses and his men testified about illegal orders they'd refused to follow. Even Mrs. Henderson gave evidence, her pressed newspapers serving as contemporary documentation. On the third night, as Morrison prepared to leave with his evidence and prisoners, Kaya found Cal standing over Miguel's grave. They'd buried him that morning, Apache ceremony, mixed with Catholic rites, Father Miguel and the boy's family finding common ground in grief. His mother wants to name her next child after you, Kaya said. Cal, if it's a boy. I don't deserve that honor. The boy died on my land in my fight. Our fight. And he died trying to save the truth. That's not your fault, it's Wade's. Before Cal could respond, they heard horses approaching fast. Both reached for weapons, then relaxed, seeing Dr. Black riding hard, her medical bag bouncing. What's wrong? Kaya asked as the doctor dismounted. Everything. Morrison's convoy was attacked 2 hours out. Professional ambush. Wade escaped along with evidence. Cal's blood went cold. Morrison, dead, along with 6 guards. Wade's got allies we didn't know about. Dr. Black's face was grim. There's more. Judge Wickham's returned with federal papers. He's been appointed territorial administrator with emergency powers. First order all Apache to be relocated to San Carlos within 72 hours, no exceptions. They can't, Kaya started. They can and they are. Army reinforcements are already moving, not local troops, regulars from Fort Grant, men who don't know the situation, just following orders. Cal felt the walls closing in again, but worse this time. Wade was free, Wickham had legal authority, and their allies were scattered. The Apache families at the ranch looked to them for answers they didn't have. We run, Taza said bluntly. Take who we can get to Mexico. And abandon everyone else. Kaya shook her head. Every Apache who can't run can't fight. What's the alternative? Stand here and die heroically. Before anyone could answer, Father Miguel arrived with urgent news. Wade's in town gathering a lynch mob. Says he's coming for the ranch at dawn. Legal or not, he wants blood. How many? Cal asked. 50, maybe 60. All armed, all angry. He's promising Apache scalp bounties, $100 each. The Apache family started panicking. Children crying, women gathering meager possessions, men checking weapons they knew wouldn't be enough. Cal saw the fear, the desperation, the same look he'd seen on his Cherokee mother's face before she died. "No," he said loud enough to cut through the chaos. "We're not running." "Cal," Moses said carefully, "the odds have been worse. We've got 12 hours until dawn. Time enough." "Time for what?" Dr. Black asked. Cal smiled, cold and determined. "Time to remind them why they used to fear Cal Whitaker." He turned to Kaya. "Remember what you said about standing between worlds? Well, sometimes standing means fighting from both sides. What are you planning? Wade expects us to fort up here, wait for his attack, so we don't. We take the fight to him tonight on our terms." He looked at Moses. "You in? My men and I are officially on leave for another week." Moses grinned. "What we do with our time is our business." Taza, the Apache woman, checked her rifle. "I've got nothing better to do than kill men who deserve it. Father Miguel, I need you to take the family somewhere safe. The mission has hidden rooms from the Spanish days. They'll be safe there." As they planned through the night, Cal felt something shifting. This wasn't about Apache versus white anymore, or North versus South. This was about those who believed in justice against those who profited from its absence. Mrs. Henderson arrived with unexpected reinforcements, 10 townsmen, all armed, all men, who'd been helped by Dr. Black or traded fairly with Kaya at the agency. "We're not much," their leader, a blacksmith named Tom Walsh, said. "But Miguel was a good boy. What Wade's doing ain't right." By midnight, they had 30 fighters, Apache, white, black, Mexican, united, not by friendship, but by shared purpose. It wasn't enough to win a straight fight, but Cal wasn't planning a straight fight. "Wade's holed up in the hotel," a scout reported. "Guards on every entrance, windows boarded." "The hotel with the coal cellar?" Cal asked. "That's the one." Cal's smile was sharp as winter. "Then we smoke them out." They moved through darkness, groups of 3 and 4, taking different routes. Cal and Kaya went through the old mining tunnels that connected to several buildings' basements. Moses and his men positioned themselves on rooftops. Taza and her warriors waited in the shadows. The first part was simple sulfur and coal dust. In the hotel's heating system, just enough to create smoke, not fire. Cal had learned the trick from a Confederate sapper, one of many lessons war taught that he'd hoped never to use again. The smoke started slow, then built, coughing from inside, then shouting. The first men stumbled out, gasping, straight into Moses's carefully aimed rifles. They surrendered instantly, but Wade was too smart to run blind. He came out organized, using hostages, 3 Apache women he'd grabbed from town shields against bullets. "Whitaker," Wade shouted, "show yourself or they die." Cal stepped from the shadows, hands visible but ready. "Let them go, Wade. This is between us." "Nothing's between us. You're a traitor and I'm the law." "The law." Judge Wickham emerged from the hotel, coughing but trying to maintain dignity. "I'm the law here now, Whitaker. Surrender and I might—" His words cut off as an arrow sprouted from his shoulder. Not fatal, but painful. Taza's voice came from above. "Next one goes in your eye." Chaos erupted. Wade's men scattered, some shooting wild, others running. The hostages broke free in the confusion. Cal moved straight for Wade, tackling him as the colonel reached for a hostage. They rolled in the dust, trading punches with the fury of men who'd held back too long. Wade was trained, but Cal had learned fighting in places West Point never imagined. A knee to the ribs, an elbow to the throat, and Wade was down gasping. Cal could have killed him, then Wade saw it in his eyes and for the first time showed fear. "Do it!" Wade gasped. "Make me a martyr!" "No." Cal stood, kicked Wade's gun away. "You'll live, stand trial, face justice. There is no justice for race traitors." "Then I'll make some." The fight was ending around them. Wade's mob had dissolved, facing determined resistance instead of easy victims. Judge Wickham bled and whimpered. The townspeople who'd joined Wade were reconsidering their choices, but then Cal herded horses, many horses coming fast. The army reinforcements from Fort Grant had arrived early. Hundreds of them fresh troops who'd only heard Wade's version of events. The captain leading them, young and eager for glory, surveyed the scene with confusion. "Colonel Wade, sir, we're here to assist in the Apache relocation." Wade smiled through bloody teeth. "Excellent timing, Captain. Arrest these insurgents." The captain looked uncertain. "Sir, you appear to be injured." "By rebels and savages, do your duty." The moment balanced on a knife's edge. Then Mrs. Henderson stepped forward with her newest edition, still wet from the press. "Captain, before you act, you should read this." The headline was bold. "Colonel Wade, charged with treason. Federal prosecutor murdered, evidence of corruption exposed." The captain read, his face changing. "Colonel, it says here you've been embezzling federal funds." "Lies printed by traitors." "With documentation," Mrs. Henderson added, pulling out copies of the evidence Morrison had gathered. "Bank records, signed orders, witness testimony." The captain was young, but not stupid. He looked at the scene, Wade bloodied, and desperate prominent townspeople standing with Cal Apache, and white and black together. "I think," the captain said slowly, "we should return to Fort Grant and await clarification from Washington. I'm your superior officer. You're a suspect in federal crime, sir. I can't take orders from you." The captain turned to Cal. "Mr. Whitaker, I'll need you to keep the peace until federal authorities arrive." "You're leaving?" Wade couldn't believe it. "I'm avoiding a massacre, sir, something you might have tried." As the cavalry withdrew, Wade's remaining support evaporated. Even Judge Wickham, clutching his wounded shoulder, slunk away into the night. Wade sat in the dust, defeated but unbroken, his hate still burning. "This isn't over, Whitaker. Men like you, women like her, you don't belong in the natural order." "Maybe not," Cal agreed, "but we're here anyway." Dawn found them at the ranch, exhausted but victorious. The Apache families returned from the mission, the immediate threat passed. But everyone knew this was temporary. Wade had powerful friends, and the forces he represented wouldn't simply disappear. As Cal and Kaya stood watching the sunrise, Taza approached with news. "Victorio sends word. He's impressed. Says any Apache who wants to join him in the mountains is welcome, but so is anyone who wants to stay and fight the legal way." She smiled slightly. "He also says the white man who married his cousin fights like Apache. That's high praise." "We're cousins," Cal asked Kaya. "All Apache are cousins somehow," Kaya said with a tired smile. Then more seriously, "What happens now?" Dr. Black joined them, medical bag in hand, as always. "Now we build. The ranch, the community, the connections that make us stronger than those who divide us." "Pretty words," Taza said, "but Wade's still out there." "Let him come," Cal said. "We've proven something here. Different peoples, different backgrounds, but united in purpose. That scares men like Wade more than any weapon." Father Miguel arrived with the dawn mass bells ringing. "The federal investigators will arrive within the week. Until then, we must hold together." Together. Mrs. Henderson agreed, already planning the next edition. The truth is a powerful weapon when properly wielded. As the sun rose higher, painting the desert gold, the unlikely alliance began the work of rebuilding not just buildings but trust, not just fences, but futures. It wouldn't be easy. The forces of hatred and greed would return as they always did. But for now, in this moment, on this small ranch where a spring bubbled, eternal people who should have been enemies stood as friends. And in the territory of Arizona in the year 1876, that was revolution enough. The federal investigators arrived not in a week, but in 3 days, and they didn't come alone. Wade had been busy using telegraph lines from Fort Grant to paint himself as a hero fighting insurgents. The lead investigator, a severe man named Cornelius Hart, made his prejudices clear from the moment he dismounted at Cal's ranch. "Mr. Whitaker, you're accused of leading an armed rebellion against federal authority," Hart announced, flanked by 20 soldiers. "These are serious charges. The only rebellion here was against corruption and murder," Cal replied, standing firm on his porch, with Kaya beside him. "We have evidence provided by a Mexican printer, Apache testimony, and a female doctor from Boston who clearly has radical tendencies," Hart interrupted. "Hardly credible sources." Kaya stepped forward. "So our word means nothing because of what we are not what we witnessed." Hart didn't even look at her, addressing Cal instead. "Control your woman, Whitaker, or I'll have her arrested for interference." The insult hung in the air like gunpowder waiting for a spark. Cal's hand drifted to his Colt, but Kaya touched his arm. "Not yet," the gesture said. "Mr. Hart." Dr. Black emerged from the house carrying a leather satchel. "Before you dismiss evidence based on the source, perhaps you should examine the documentation itself. And you are Dr. Miriam Black, formerly of Massachusetts General Hospital. And this," she pulled out a telegram, "is from Senator Charles Sumner himself, requesting a fair investigation." Hart's eyes widened. Sumner was powerful, a radical Republican who'd fought for abolition and equal rights. His word carried weight even here. "How did you—" "I treated his nephew 2 years ago, saved his life from typhoid. The senator remembers his debts." Dr. Black smiled coldly. "Now, shall we discuss evidence like civilized people, or continue this prejudicial charade?" Hart took the documentation reluctantly, but as he read, his expression changed. Bank records, signed orders, photographs Mrs. Henderson had managed to take of Wade's meeting with known Confederate raiders. The evidence was overwhelming. "This appears substantial," Hart admitted, "but Colonel Wade has his own evidence. He claims you've been harboring Apache renegades, including members of Victorio's band. We've been sheltering Apache families illegally driven from their legal homesteads," Cal corrected. "There's a difference. Not in the law's eyes." That's when Father Miguel arrived with an unexpected companion, a distinguished Mexican gentleman in an expensive suit, carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than most men's yearly wages. "Mr. Hart," Father Miguel said formally, "may I introduce Senor Eduardo Valdez, attorney at law representing the Apache families in their land claims." Valdez bowed slightly. "I've brought the original Spanish and Mexican land grants, all properly authenticated. These predate American territorial claims, and under your own Treaty of Guadalupe, Hidalgo must be honored." Hart looked frustrated. "Those old grants are meaningless." "Not according to the Supreme Court," Valdez interrupted smoothly. "I have 3 precedent cases here. Would you like to review them?" While Hart struggled with the legal documents, a dust cloud appeared on the horizon. Riders moving fast, too fast for good news. Taza, who'd been scouting, galloped in with urgent word. "Wade's coming. 50 men, all deputized by a federal judge in Tucson. They have warrants." "Warrants for what?" Cal demanded. "Everything. Murder, treason, sedition. He's got paper to arrest everyone on this ranch." Hart looked uncomfortable. "If he has federal warrants, signed by Judge Benjamin Corwin," Taza added, "Wade's cousin by marriage." The revelation sent a ripple through the gathered crowd. Even Hart couldn't ignore such obvious corruption. "Nevertheless," Hart said, "legal warrants must be respected until challenged in court." "Then we'll all be dead before that challenge is heard," Kaya said bluntly. Wade doesn't want arrests. He wants revenge. As if to punctuate her words, a rifle shot cracked across the desert. The bullet struck a fence post inches from Hart's head, sending the investigator diving for cover. That was a warning. Wade's voice carried across the distance. He sat his horse on a ridge, his deputized mob spread out behind him. Send out the Apache witch and her race traitor husband, or we're coming in shooting. Hart stood up, brushing dust from his coat, his face pale but angry. Colonel Wade, I'm a federal investigator. You just fired on a federal official. Prove it. Wade laughed. My men saw Apache snipers. We're defending ourselves. It was brilliant in its simplicity. Wade would claim any violence was self-defense, and with 50 witnesses backing him who could prove otherwise, Cal made a decision. Mr. Hart, you wanted evidence of Wade's corruption. You're about to see it firsthand. He turned to Moses. Remember Chancellorsville? Moses grinned. The flanking maneuver. That was beautiful. Let's do it again. They moved fast, Cal sending small groups to circle through the ravines while keeping Wade's attention on the ranch. Hart watched with growing amazement as Apache warriors, buffalo soldiers, and local ranchers coordinated with military precision. You were at Chancellorsville, Hart asked. Behind enemy lines for 3 weeks before the battle, Cal confirmed. Mapped every Confederate position. Same principle here. Wade thinks he has us surrounded, but he's left his flanks exposed. Wade grew impatient and ordered his advance. His men came in 3 waves, professional and deadly, but they were expecting desperate defense, not coordinated counterattack. The first surprise came when Jake Tatum's Confederates appeared on Wade's left flank. Jake had returned unable to stay away from a good fight, despite his earlier departure. Hey, Wade, Jake shouted. Funny thing about us Rebs, we don't like tyrants any more than we liked Yankees. Wade's left crumbled under Confederate rifles, the irony not lost on anyone. Southern veterans defending an Apache white marriage against federal authority. The right flank fell to Victorio's warriors, who materialized from the desert itself. They didn't kill, just wounded and disarmed, following Nana's surprising orders to take prisoners for testimony. Wade himself led the center charge, heading straight for Cal with murder in his eyes. They met in the ranch courtyard, Wade on horseback, Cal on foot. Wade's saber swept down, but Cal rolled aside, came up with his knife, the one his Cherokee mother had given him before she died. Horse and rider wheeled for another pass, but Kaya's rifle boomed. Wade's horse screamed and fell, sending the colonel tumbling into the dust. He came up with his pistol, but Cal was already there, knife at his throat. Yield, Cal said quietly. It's over. Never. I'll see you hang, race traitor. That's when Hart stepped forward, having watched the entire battle. Colonel Wade, you're under arrest for attacking a federal investigation, attempted murder of federal officials, and conspiracy to obstruct justice. You can't arrest me, I have warrants. Warrants that became void the moment you fired on me, Hart said coldly. I may have come here with preconceptions, Mr. Whitaker, but I'm not blind. Everything you said about Wade is true. Wade went wild, breaking free from Cal's grip and pulling a hidden derringer. He aimed at Kaya, his face twisted with insane hatred. If I burn, the Apache witch burns with me. The shot was impossibly loud in the sudden silence, but it wasn't Wade's derringer that fell from nerveless fingers as Wade looked down at the spreading red stain on his chest. Behind him, Reverend Holcomb lowered a smoking rifle, his face pale but determined. Thou shalt not murder, Holcomb said quietly. That includes Apache women, Colonel. God makes no distinction in his commandments. Wade fell to his knees, blood frothing his lips. You, a man of God, defending miscegenation. I'm defending life, Holcomb replied. I came here to confront my own hatred, Mr. Whitaker, watching Wade, seeing where such hatred leads. I've been a fool and a hypocrite. Christ said, love thy neighbor. He didn't add conditions. Wade tried to speak again, but only blood came out. He fell forward into the dust he'd watered with so much innocent blood, his eyes fixed on something no one else could see. Cal checked for a pulse, then shook his head. He's gone. The silence that followed was profound. Wade's remaining men threw down their weapons, suddenly leaderless and facing overwhelming opposition. Hart took charge, organizing their arrest with efficiency that suggested he'd been a soldier himself once. As the sun reached its zenith, the various groups began to separate again. Jake Tatum approached Cal one last time. "This really is goodbye now, Whitaker. We did good work here, but don't expect me at your Sunday dinners." "Understood, Jake, but thank you." Jake nodded, then surprised everyone by addressing Kaya directly. "Ma'am, you've got more courage than most men I've known. Your children will be fortunate." "Children?" Kaya's hand went unconsciously to her stomach. Jake smiled. "My grandmother was a midwife, taught me to recognize the signs. About 2 months along, I'd guess." Cal looked at Kaya in amazement. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I was waiting for the right moment to tell you." The Confederates rode off, and Victorio's warriors melted back into the desert, after Nana delivered a final message. "The Apache who choose to stay have our protection. The Apache who choose the white man's way have our respect. Both paths are hard. Choose wisely." Hart spent the next 3 days taking detailed testimony. His entire perspective changed by what he'd witnessed. When he finally prepared to leave, he pulled Cal aside. "Mr. Whitaker, I owe you an apology. I came here believing you were the problem. I leave knowing you're part of the solution." "Just trying to live free, Mr. Hart. That's what makes you dangerous to men like Wade. You prove their worldview wrong just by existing." Hart mounted his horse. "There will be a full federal investigation. Wade's network will be dismantled. You have my word." As Hart's convoy departed, Coyote Wells began to reshape itself. Without Wade's influence, without corrupt judges and sheriffs, the town had to decide what it wanted to be. Mrs. Henderson was elected mayor, the first female mayor in the territory, and her first act was to reinstate Kaya as agency administrator. Ramon Ortega, finally released from custody, published a special edition with the headline, "Justice Prevails, Unity Defeats Hatred." The paper sold out in hours, copies sent as far as San Francisco and Washington. Dr. Black established a proper clinic treating Apache and white alike, her reputation drawing patients from hundreds of miles away. She and Mrs. Henderson became close friends, 2 strong women in a frontier that desperately needed such strength. Reverend Holcomb underwent his own transformation, his sermons changing from division to unity, from hatred to understanding. Not everyone in his congregation approved, but enough did to matter. When he offered to perform a Christian blessing of Cal and Kaya's marriage, they accepted, seeing it as another bridge between worlds. The ceremony took place at sunset by the spring, where everything had started. Apache tradition mixed with Christian ritual, Father Miguel and Holcomb officiating together, while Taza sang ancient blessings, and Mrs. Henderson played hymns on a borrowed piano. "Do you, Cal Whitaker, take this woman as your wife, not just by river oath, but by choice of heart?" Father Miguel asked. "I do every day for the rest of my life." "Do you, Kaya Nez Whitaker, take this man as your husband, not just by necessity, but by love freely given?" "I do with all my spirit strength." As they kissed, the crowd erupted, Apache and white Mexican and black former Confederate and Union, all celebrating together. It was a sight that would have been impossible months ago, made real through struggle and sacrifice. 6 months later, Kaya gave birth to a daughter they named Hope. Partly for the future she represented, partly for Cal's mother, whose Cherokee name had meant Hope Bringer. The child had her mother's dark eyes and her father's determined chin, a perfect blend of 2 worlds. Victorio himself came down from the mountains for the naming ceremony, bringing a cradle board decorated with symbols of protection. "This child," he said, "will walk between worlds as her parents do. She will need strength from both." The ranch prospered, becoming a meeting place for different communities. Cal raised cattle and horses, trading fairly with all. Kaya ran the agency with wisdom and compassion, ensuring supplies actually reached those who needed them. Together, they proved that different peoples could not just coexist, but thrive together. Judge Wickham and his cousin were convicted of conspiracy and theft, receiving 20 years hard labor. Agnes Crowell's trafficking network was completely dismantled, saving hundreds of young Apache women from slavery. The Army, embarrassed by the scandal, reformed its reservation policies, though true equality remained a distant dream. On their first anniversary, Cal and Kaya stood where they'd first met, the spring babbling eternal beside them. "Do you ever regret it?" Cal asked. "That desperate choice by the river." "How can I regret the best thing that ever happened to me?" Kaya replied. "Though your proposal technique needs work, most men don't propose at knife point. Most men aren't lucky enough to marry a woman who can save their life and steal their heart in the same moment." They watched their daughter play in the shallows, babbling in a mixture of Apache and English, already bridging worlds without knowing it. Around them, the desert bloomed with unexpected life proof that even the harshest ground could nurture growth, given water and care. Taza approached with news from the territory capital. They're passing new laws, recognizing Apache land rights, allowing mixed marriages without restriction, even permitting Apache children in white schools. "Wade would be spinning in his grave," Cal said with satisfaction. "Let him spin," Kaya replied. "The world's moving forward with or without the Wade types." That evening, as the sun painted the desert in shades of gold and crimson, the ranch filled with visitors. Moses and his Buffalo soldiers, now stationed permanently at Fort Buchanan, with orders to protect all citizens equally. Mrs. Henderson and Dr. Black planning a school that would educate Apache and white children together. Ramon, his press running freely, documenting the transformation of a frontier town. Even Jake Tatum sent a wedding gift, a silver baby rattle with "Future American" engraved on it. Father Miguel blessed the gathering, his words carrying across the desert, from violence, peace. From hatred, understanding. From fear, love. This is the miracle we witness, not that differences disappear, but that they become strengths when woven together. As stars emerged in the vast Arizona sky, Cal and Kaya sat with their daughter, surrounded by their unlikely family of choice. The river oath that had begun as desperate survival had become something neither expected, a love that transcended boundaries. A partnership that challenged the world to be better. "You saw me in the water," Kaya said softly, remembering that first desperate moment. "Now look what we've built from that strange beginning." "We've built a future," Cal replied, holding his family close. "One where our daughter won't have to choose between worlds, because she'll belong to both." In the distance, coyotes howled their ancient songs, while somewhere in town Mrs. Henderson's piano played hymns that mixed with Apache drums from the mission. It was a new sound, neither purely one thing nor another, but something uniquely American. The sound of people choosing to see each other as human, first, everything else second. The spring that had brought them together continued its eternal flow, indifferent to human struggles but essential to all life. Like that water, love had found its way through the hardest ground, creating an oasis where none should exist. And in the territory of Arizona, in the year 1877, that oasis proved that change was possible, one heart, one family, one community at a time. The story that began with a knife at a throat ended with a child's laughter, proof that from the most unlikely beginnings, the most beautiful futures could grow. Cal and Kaya Whitaker had not just survived, they had triumphed not through violence but through the revolutionary act of choosing love over fear, unity over division, hope over hatred. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all.